Hello everyone. In recent years, to realize its expansionist ambitions, China has launched the Belt and Road Initiative. Through this initiative, China has continuously invested in and built many large-scale infrastructure projects in many countries around the world, including several. As seen in the previous 5-minute video about Cambodia, you have somewhat witnessed the staying power of the billion-people country, as they do not hesitate to invest huge sums in projects that bring almost no profit to the land of temples. But alongside that are also extremely troubling consequences currently existing in this country. Next video, we will continue to explore China. Similar to Cambodia, China is currently the largest foreign investor in Laos. In reality, Beijing has pumped billions of dollars into sectors such as hydropower, agriculture, mining, and construction in Laos, aiming to lay the groundwork for the Silk Road strategy being implemented by this country. To visualize the scale and impact of these projects, Laos's GDP in 2012 was only $15.3 billion, and at its peak in 2019, it was 18.7. The Cali Industrial Zone, with an investment of $4.31 billion, is the most recent industrial project Beijing has. For those who don't know, Cali fertilizer is one of the three main types of fertilizer in agriculture, and China currently relies heavily on it. According to a 2011 report, the country's consumption of Cali fertilizer was about 13.84 million tons, with over half of the supply coming from. Due to the increasing demand, Beijing must seek countries with abundant raw materials, especially those nearby, to invest in building factories to address supply and cost issues. And Laos is a prime example. On March 27th of this year, a memorandum was signed between the Lao government and Sinoagri International Cali Company, a subsidiary of Asia Potash International Investment Company, the world's leading Cali fertilizer supplier based in Guangdong. Accordingly, the two sides will cooperate to build the Asia Potash International Smart Circular Industrial Zone in Conway Province, covering a total area of about 2,000 hectares. The project will be divided into 3 zones. The Laos leading producer and processor of Cali fertilizer, thereby helping Laos become one of the world. The non-Cali industrial zone will utilize resources related to Cali mines, as well as Laos's coal and bauxite mines, to expand the industrial and supply chains through resource utilization and investment promotion. Meanwhile, Asia Potash Village will be built as a modern, multifunctional urban complex, including medical, educational, commercial, sports, and service facilities to attract investors and talent, accelerating Laos's urbanization process. According to the signed memorandum, the company will have the right to exploit about 35 kilometers of the Cali salt mine area in Conway Province. The area has a total Cali reserve of over 1 billion ton, and the project is expected to bring Laos financial revenue of about $320 million annually, creating about 30,000 to 50,000 local. The Laos-China High-Speed Railway, with an investment of $6 million. As part of the Belt and Road Initiative, the Laos-China High-Speed Railway line began construction in 2016 by China National Railway Group and was completed at the end of 2021, with hundreds of mountain tunnels and the distributed power electric trains running on the line can carry up to 720 people and reach a speed of 160 km per hour. The entire railway line is 1,035 km long, connecting Kunming City in China's Yunnan province with the Lao capital. The section within Lao territory is 422 km long, connecting the capital to Boden, an area right on the Laos-China border. However, in the initial completion phase, due to the impact of the COVID pandemic, it only served domestic passenger traffic. As of February 25, 2023, the line has transported nearly 1.9 million domestic passengers in Laos and nearly only until last month, specifically on April 13, when China reopened tourism, did cross-border passenger services begin, from Kunming to Vientiane. In February 2023, China launched the first round-trip freight train connecting 3 countries, China, Laos, and Thailand, spanning 1,830 km. As an extension of the Laos-China freight line, the freight train departs from Kunming City in China's Yunnan province, passes through Laos, and reaches its final destination in Thailand, and vice versa. With this mode of transport, the time is shortened by 1 day, and costs are reduced by over 20%. Starting from June 2023, it is expected that there will be daily round-trip services from China to Thailand via Laos, and in the near future, this freight line may be extended to other regions.
However, alongside the bright prospects, there have been many concerns about the actual benefits of this railway, as well as the long-term consequences it may bring. Debt repayment capacity, as the value of this project is equivalent to about 1/3 of the country.
Additionally, the complex agreements have raised skepticism, as in reality, out of the $6 billion in investment, only about 40% is contributed by the two governments. Specifically, the Lao government contributed $730 million, of which only $250 million came from the state budget, and the remaining $480 million were also borrowed from the.
Moreover, this project was signed as a build-operate-transfer (BOT) contract.
According to the agreement, the investor will operate the China-Laos Railway for 50 years before transferring it to the Lao government.
As funding, it mainly comes from China, as Laos.
Therefore, the railway may not bring long-term benefits to Laos, as the country tends to continuously repay debts and interest to China. Another concern raised by experts is the impact of the railway on the living environment, as well as the scenic landscapes of this country, such as the organization of the project, such as the organization of the project, or the organization of the project, or the organization of the project. Therefore, the railway may not bring long-term benefits to Laos, as the country tends to continuously repay debts and interest to China. Another concern raised by experts is the impact of the railway on the living environment, as well as the scenic landscapes of this, such as the World Heritage Sites Luang Prabang or Beijing, both of which have stations along this line.
The Boden Special Economic Zone, with an investment of $10 billion United States dollars.
The Boden Special Economic Zone, or Boden Beautiful Land, covers about 1,640 hectares in Luang Nantha province. It is the most expensive infrastructure development project in Boden is an area located near the Laos-China border. In 2003, the Lao government designated Boden as the country's first special economic zone
and a locomotive for attracting foreign investment,
specifically attracting Chinese companies to lease land to build factories and develop industry. However, in the first 5 years, it remained only a small trip. Everything changed only in 2007 when the Fuking Travel Entertainment Group, a development and investment company from Hong Kong, was granted a 30-year lease for this special economic.
Soon after, they transformed Boden from a remote border town
into a gambling paradise with hotels, casinos, bars, and massage parlors springing up like butter. During its peak period, thanks to the visa-free policy for entering Laos, Boden attracted thousands of people daily, mainly Chinese present in the town,
as workers, tourists, and gamblers.
But alongside the rapid development was an increase in criminal activities in the area, along with casino owners frequently engaging in illegal detention, beatings,
and even killings when debtors were unable to pay.
In 2011, under pressure from the Chinese government, Laos was forced to while also cutting off the electricity supply to Boden. The Boden Special Economic Zone once again fell silent as casinos were closed,
and was likened to a ghost town as most residents had left.
With the Belt and Road Initiative, along with the construction of the recently mentioned Laos-China Railway,
this border area has been revived once more.
The Yunnan Haicheng Industrial Group secured the right to build and develop the Boden Special Economics with a contract worth $10 billion, aiming to turn it into a logistics, trade, and tourism hub, as well as a leading modern industrial zone in Laos. Construction began in December 2016, with the zone expected to be completed within the next 10 to. Although still focused on infrastructure development, it has already attracted 369 companies to invest, including 360 Chinese companies. It is expected that when operational, the Boden, the former gambling paradise, will rise to become one of the locomotives for attracting investment and the largest economic development center in the country. The Golden Triangle Special Economic Zone, with an investment capital of $2 billion. This is another famous special economic zone of Laos, located in the Keo province, within the Golden Triangle area. The famous Tri-Junction of Southeast Asia, where Laos, Myanmar, and Thailand meet along the Mekong.
The zone's name is also inspired by this.
If previously, the Golden Triangle was known as one of the world's largest drug production centers, now, alongside illicit substances, the Golden Triangle Special Economic Zone, with the key owned by Zhao Weiwei, has emerged as a powerful gambling empire in this unstable region. In 2007, the King's Roman Group signed an agreement with the Lao government, to cooperate in developing a tourism zone right in the Golden Triangle. 3 years later, the Lao Prime Minister signed a decree officially establishing the Golden Triangles and leased 3,000 hectares of land to Zhao Weiwei for now. The agreement stipulates that the zone is allowed to self-govern, from urban planning to the financial system,
and even security in certain cases.
Since then, Chinese entrepreneurs have flocked to the Golden Triangle to do business, and to date, 495 investment units are present in the area.
90% of these are owned by Chinese.
According to information from the official social media account of the total investment capital from the project's start in 2007 to 2020 has reached $2 billion. Over more than 10 years of development, the influx of funds has primarily been used, including roads, bridges, embankments, commercial centers, hotels, residential areas, notably a series of 5-star hotels and a hospital. In 2020, an international airport not far away commenced construction, with a construction cost of about $175 million and expected to. This new airport can accommodate approximately 1.5 to 2 million passengers. Also in 2020, the Ban Mong Port project with a total investment capital of $50 million was also built, aiming to promote goods and services trade in Laos, especially in the Golden Triangle area. There is also a Chinatown here, with operating hours and daily schedules adjusted to China's time zone, and most service shops refuse payment in Lao Kip and require the use of Chinese yuan. To date, the most attractive feature and economic driver of the Golden Triangle Special Economic Zone,
a giant casino, literally described as the gem of this special zone.
Not fading away early like Boat 10, the casino operated by this millionaire boss has even but things are not that simple, as inside the special zone in northwestern Laos, instability is rampant. Besides being incompatible with local culture, this gambling empire is also a breeding ground for a series of illegal business activities. The United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime in Southeast Asia and the Pacific has issued warnings about rampant crime in the region's special economic zones. At the end of January 2018, the U.S. Treasury Department placed this, accusing him of using businesses as a front to conceal criminal, including drug trafficking, human trafficking, prostitution, money laundering, bribery, and wildlife smuggled. In other words, King's Roman Group is an organized criminal enterprise. International officials, especially from the U.S., Laos may have made a deal with the devil by allowing a drug lord to control part of an extremely sensitive border area in exchange for economic growth. The U.S. also accuses the King's Roman boss of being behind the Ban Mong Port. If he is indeed a notorious drug lord as alleged by the U.S.,
then any move by him could lead to an increase in the production
and export of illegal drugs from the Golden Triangle area. This poses a significant danger as drug smugglers seem to be using Laos as a corridor for trafficking synthetic drugs abroad. Additionally, concerns continue to arise in some Southeast Asian countries, after discovering many cases of citizens being lured here to perform illegal work at casinos or online gaming establishments. In Vietnam, while the situation of illegal human trafficking has not yet subsided, human trafficking to Laos has recently resurfaced, with many complex developments. During the period from May 2021 to May 2022, Lao authorities rescued 477 foreigners who were victims of human trafficking work in the Golden Triangle Special Economic Zone, including many Vietnamese citizens. On Laos' side, there seems to have been a turning of a blind eye to the above issues, added, between Mr. Chung King-Shroman and senior officials of the country remaining buried. Lao officials still pay considerable attention to this area, with many visits and inspections taking place. The Sanakam Dam project with an investment capital of $2.083 billion. Hydropower construction is currently the focus in the development plan of this landlocked to profit from exporting electricity to neighboring countries by 2030. But due to limited potential, China has seized this opportunity to inject sustain into hydropower projects in Laos. One of the important projects to make the country the battery of Southeast Asia. That is the Sanakam Dam construction project, with cooperation from China, worth $2.083 billion, a river that affects the livelihoods, food security, and social cultural fabric of 6 countries, including Vietnam downstream of this river. This project is the 6th hydropower dam in the plan to build 9 hydropower dams on the Mekong River itself by the Lao government. It is only about 2 kilometers from the Thai border, upstream in the boundary area between Saigon Province and Vientiane. The construction is carried out by a Chinese conglomerate. According to the plan, the Sanakam hydropower plant will have, with a total capacity of 684 megawatts, expected to operate for 2028. Once operational, most of the electricity generated. The Sanakan project was submitted by the Lao government to the Mekong River Commission on September 9, 2019. Along with a set of technical documents and feasibility studies, including social and environmental impact assessments of the sediment and fisheries studies. This set of documents has been shared with other MRC member countries, including Cambodia, Thailand, and Vietnam. However, this proposal has faced strong backlash from many countries, including Vietnam, but most vehemently from Thailand, as they fear the dam construction will significantly obstruct the flow of the Mekong River, a vital artery of Southeast Asia that has already been blocked for many years. Additionally, it could exacerbate flooding and drought conditions, which is the livelihood for over tens of millions of people living along this river. The prior consultation process is considered part of the rules for water use on the Mekong River. Any hydropower construction project on the Mekong River must consult with the MRC, and the Commission can submit some, but does not have veto power over construction. Therefore, Laos remains determined to build the Mekong Dam and is in the construction phase of this, without listening to the opinions of the people of the three remaining countries. Thailand,
the consequences of unsustainable projects that China pours into Laos.
Like Cambodia, with the influx of Chinese investment and Laos's conditions to help this country carry out infrastructure construction projects, it also raised many concerns about potential consequences for local people and the environment. First, there is the issue of Laos exchanging land for money from China with 99-year economic zone, such as the case of the Golden Triangle Special Economic Zone. Many casinos and extravagant, followed by a series of dangerous social crimes in the area. Statistics show that the number of Chinese tourists visiting Laos increased from 400,000 in 2014 to 800. Among the tourists, many are gamblers heading to famous casinos located within these 99-year lease areas. Despite the increase in tourists, it seems the profits only accumulate for restaurant and casino owners established by China, and these establishments also tend to hire Chinese staff, rather than local people, as they do not know China. Even payment methods are very inconvenient, although on Laos soil, the local currency is restricted in some areas,
and instead, the Chinese yuan is very common.
Second, China's pouring of money and investment in the real estate sector in Laos has left many potential consequences. A typical example is the Sanakan hydropower dam project. Out of over $2 billion United States, only about $28 million United States dollars, equivalent to 1.4%, is used to develop with the goal of becoming the battery of Southeast Asia. Laos has accelerated the construction of power. Besides serious environmental harms, this very situation has caused Laos, one of the poorest countries in the region, to quickly sink into debt.
In reality, it is currently one of the poorest countries in Southeast Asia.
With a per capita GDP in 2022 of only 1,800, many experts believe Laos is at risk of becoming one of the top countries indebted to China, as it continuously favors projects related to the Belt and Road. Just the 5 projects mentioned above amount to nearly $24.4 billion United States dollars, 1.6 times the country's. In recent years, Laos has experienced continuous budget deficits, leading to a significant by the end of 2022, public debt had reached nearly 95% of a level that economists consider too high and dangerous,
making Laos one of the most indebted countries with the highest risk of default in Asia.
It's still the same old trick. China can lend under any conditions. Even the clients are many very poor countries, with very low credit rating indices. Simply put, these are countries at the bottom of the list. For Laos, experts assess that this country is forced to accept 3 basic requirements from China, which are to support China's policies on issues in Taiwan and Tibet. Acknowledge the billion-people country as the largest investor, and their companies will be permitted to exploit resources in Laos. Simultaneously, establish regular routes from Laos to Thailand, and if they are unable to repay the debt when it is due, then, similar to the case of Sri Lanka, Laos may have to cede some crucial areas to Beijing. This is precisely the debt trap, an economic expansion tool serving various other. More seriously, when entangled in easy to obtain but hard to, this country cannot access other financial sources, as the credit rating drops to a low level. This is akin to an individual borrowing credit from financial institutions.
Influence in Laos and Vietnam.
As a landlocked country bordering 5 nations,
Laos has long sought to maintain a balance among its neighbors.
Historically, Laos has been known as a friendly neighbor to Vietnam. The close bond between the leadership of Laos and Vietnam has been maintained since the war years. However, with economic reforms in the late 1980s and after the dissolution of the Soviet Union, Laos also began to broaden its horizons and gradually reduce its dependence on Vietnam.
This has given Laos more room to strengthen relations with China,
its largest neighbor to the north, and China has become Laos's largest investor. Since 2013, Laos-China bilateral trade has seen remarkable growth,
especially in the northern provinces of Laos.
In 2021 alone, bilateral trade between the two countries reached 4, indicating that China views Laos as one of the gateways to Southeast.
Overall, China's influence on Laos is undeniable.
Meanwhile, Vietnam has always valued a comprehensive friendship and cooperation. According to information from the Ministry of Planning and investment cooperation between the two, Laos consistently ranks first among the 78 countries and territories where Vietnam invests abroad, with 209, totaling $5.1 billion. Vietnam has also always been among the top 3 largest direct investors, and, notably, after a period of decline, Vietnam's investment in Laos is trending upward again, in a more sustainable. In 2021, investment capital from Vietnam to Laos reached $118.3 million, a 33. The total Vietnam-Laos trade turnover in 2022 also exceeding 1. On August 8, 2021, Vietnam completed and handed over the new National Assembly building. This new National Assembly building, with a total investment of nearly $112 million, state and people of Vietnam to the party, state and people of Laos. The project includes 1 basement and 5 above-ground floors, built on an area of 7,000 square meters on the site of the old National. This project was invested in by the Ministry of Construction of Vietnam, with the 11th Corps of the Ministry of National Defense. Due to its special nature, the project had 2 steering committees, 2 2 design consultants, and 2 supervision consultants from Vietnam and Laos. However, the most significant mark of Vietnam-Laos friendship is perhaps Vung Ang Port. On May 24, 2011, Vung Ang Port Vietnam-Laos Joint Stock, later renamed Laos-Vietnam International Port Joint Stock Company, of which the Laos United Company for Vung Ang Port Development from the Laos side holds 20% of
its long-term development. Vietnam has facilitated its neighbor, thereby helping Laos, a landlocked country, gain access to the sea.
Along with the port system at Vung Ang, Vietnam and Laos are promoting and seeking investment sources to implement connectivity projects between the two countries, such as the Vientiane Vung Ang Railway Corridor. These projects are not only seen as symbols of the most practical cooperation between the
opening opportunities for Vietnam and Laos to maximize each country's strengths,
but also enhancing the connectivity of both countries with others and bring maximum benefits to the people of both. That is information about some Chinese investment projects in Laos, alongside the changes, consequences, and concerns regarding. Hello and see you again in the next video.